invite you to open your Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 18. We're going to stay in one text. It's a long text, most of 1 Samuel 18 and 19. It's a narrative. It's a story. It's a grand story, and I'm going to approach it in a story form, and you can follow along. It was too long to include in the bulletin and too long for a reading right now, but I couldn't separate the parts in the story, so we're going to tell the whole story in these chapters. Would you pray with me, please? Father God, bless us. Make us to sense your presence. Lay through your Holy Spirit, lay your word upon our hearts. Challenge us and comfort us. And in all things, O Spirit, raise up Christ to us. Conform us into the mind of Christ. And through him we pray. Amen. Well, we lived in Monticello, Arkansas at the time. And 3 houses down, I'll call them Fred and Wilma. That ought to give you a clue. They had 2 children, and there was a boy who was socially awkward, 13-year-old, which is normal, and the little girl was a skinny-legged 10-year-old. Now, Fred was a drunk. He was about as big as a bar of soap after a hard day's wash. And Wilma was my size. Enough said. And late one night, the kids pound on our door. Mama told us to come down here. She has called the police on Daddy. So Polly took them in. And I walked down 3 houses just as the blue lights are coming up the street. And Wilma looked a little beat up. Wilma tells the police, I'm a trusted neighbor. Fred knows me. Can I go in with them? They said I could. So 2 policemen, hands on their holsters, go in. We call out for Fred. We can't see him, but we can hear him. He's growling. So we turn the corner of the bedroom. Still can't see him, but he growls louder. And then, in an act of sheer drunk crazy, he raises up from the bed. Now, he was under the bed. He was not under the covers. He was under the bed. And he stands up and he roars, and the box springs and the mattresses fly off the rails, and they crash into the floor, and the cops step a step back, and their hands on they draw their weapons, and I'm thinking, this isn't even funny drunk anymore. And there's Fred. He's shirtless and he's shoeless and he's mostly toothless. And he's wearing his cut-off jeans. And he waves his arm and he beats his chest and he says, I'm the king of the jungle. I'm a lion. Roar. Fred has no weapon. He's just a drunk beating his chest. And they cuff him. They walk outside. It's all over. But I think of the kids, and I think of Wilma. And I still remember the shame she felt in her eyes. That kind of family stuff's out there. If you're raised in it, you never do get quite free from it. It's always like a red welt that you carry around in your memory. You never really feel clean from it. Now, if you weren't raised in it, it's like an object of grotesque fascination. It's the reason that all those reality shows and those trashy talk shows find an audience. It's because people are always wanting to watch the train wreck. We're all sinners. We think about all this kind of family stuff. We all have our baggage. And that's a fact as plain as potatoes. And our text this morning in 1 Samuel 18 and 19, it is a vivid biblical witness to that fact. And as we go from chapter 18, verse 6 to the end of 19, it really is like a roller coaster ride. what I want to do is I just want to walk us through the text, and then we'll make application after we walk through the text. In chapter 18, verses 6 through 9, after the death of the slaying of Goliath, Saul decides to take a victory lap among the people. And it really wasn't the brightest thing that Saul could have done, because after all, if you remember up to that time before Goliath, he had led a failed military effort, that is, until David came along. And, people do connect those kinds of dots. So Saul takes his victory lap, and surprise, surprise, the people have now found a new hero. Saul has struck down his thousands, David his 10,000s. And Saul doesn't take well to this at all. And the text says in verse 9, and Saul eyed David from that day on. Well, you know what projection means. It means that you project your stuff, how you feel about yourself. You project that onto someone else, on the other person. So by this point in Saul's reign, who is Saul? Saul was a power-hungry, selfish, and obsessed king. So now Saul assumes, well, that's how everybody rolls. That's how everybody treats everybody, and that's really how David's looking at me. Well, really, that's Saul's guilt at work in him. He ought to listen to himself, but he won't. And we see in the text that Saul's guilt turns and curdles into envy and jealousy. You see, it drives Saul crazy into reckless and impulsive and paranoid behavior in the text. He tries to kill David. And we read about this idea of a harmful spirit from God. It happens twice in these two chapters. It's an interesting thing when you think about it. Let me explain it briefly with this example. Let's say that you're married, but that you already know in your marriage that you're already pretty much of a moral goner in your marriage. You're mean, you're detached, you're hard, you're unfaithful, whatever it is, but you know that about yourself. Maybe the other person doesn't, but you know that. So you know at this time what's going to make you really, really crazy? It's going to be if your spouse, your husband or your wife, really treats you well. You see, your own guilt will back up on you. Because, you know inside your head that you're failing, you're blowing it. And then when you do have that moment of clarity and you do see yourself and you see your husband or your wife living honorably towards you, it really ticks you off. You see, that's your own guilt kind of at work in you. And you ought to listen to it. It doesn't absolve the other person, but you ought to listen to what's going on in you. See, and that's kind of how I understand this harmful spirit sent from God. God makes, through intervention, He makes Saul see that, like he had said through Samuel, God's blessing had left him, that the Lord really is with David, and the people, including those in his own household, they all love David. And in this moment of terrible clarity, Saul sees the very goodness of David, and it only serves to magnify the badness that he knows within himself. So, when God is going to the trouble of convicting you of your own sin by showing you the goodness of someone else, that's an awful lot to take in, and you don't react well most times. And for you, if you're so proud and stubborn at the time that changing your ways is not really an option for you, then like Saul, the only temporary relief that you can get for yourself is to be rid of that good person in your life. Distance, detach. Well, Saul's a king. He's going to try to kill him. Really, that's really just your guilt at work in you. It never rests, and you ought to pay attention to it. So, Saul tries, in our text, to set David up in a number of ways, and we're just going to walk through them. Remember back in chapter 17, Saul had offered his daughter, his first daughter Merab, to the one who actually did kill Goliath. Well, David's the one who killed Goliath. So now Saul's making the offer. Now, at least on the surface, it looks like he's going to honor the offer he had made. Saul offers his oldest daughter Merab to David. But David smells a trap here with crazy Saul. I mean, if you're dealing with a crazy king who's itching to kill you, there's no reason to put a knife in his hand. So, if you defer. You don't show ambition. You back off, which is what David does. He doesn't jump on this offer. He defers. He says, well, who am I? Kind of playing for time. And sure enough, Saul reneges on the offer and gives his daughter to another man. Okay, well, that didn't work for Saul. So now he's going to try another tack. Okay, Saul finds out that his daughter Michal loves David. So now Saul's going to use this to his own advantage, his own crazy advantage. Now, if you're David, on the one hand, you've already deferred the king's offer of his daughter because, you know the dynamics and you don't want to seem too ambitious. You don't want to seem too eager. But on the other hand, now the king has offered you another daughter. And now you don't want to be insulting because you don't want to be in a position of turning down the king just too often. And Saul, manipulative, crazy Saul, he knows all this and he counts on it and he's using it because he has a more sinister plan. You see, he sets this dowry price for his daughter Michal. 100 Philistine foreskins. And the text says that Saul did this in 18 verse 25. It says, because Saul wanted David to fall by the hand of the Philistines. That was his agenda. So, it's bad enough to say, go kill 100 of my enemy so you can marry my daughter. But it's worse to say, go kill 100 enemies, mutilate their dead bodies, so you can make sure that you are noxious to all the enemies, and you can become their most wanted man, their most hated man. You see, the way Saul is setting David up, if it works the way he wants it to, it's going to be a win-win for Saul, the king, because it is far better for Saul, the king, to have David die on the Philistine battlefield. And then Saul, the king, in public, he can kind of play the grieving warrior king, and he can mourn the noble loss of David. So sad that young noble David, brave David, died such a noble death in the service of his country, and he was going to be a son to me. You see, in this setup, you got crazy Saul. He's dealing himself 4 aces. That's what he's trying to do. But in our text, the Lord repeatedly is with David. And you see that David doesn't complain. He doesn't flinch. And he's willing to get his hands dirty. Saul wanted 100 by Wednesday. He gave him 200 by Monday. Saul had 4 aces, but David lays down a royal flush. Saul gets the king's daughter, and he enhances his reputation in the nation and the army as a fearsome warrior. He comes out on top. But at the very end of chapter 18, verses 28 and 29, you have kind of a commentary. Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David. Saul was even more afraid of David. So Saul was David's enemy continually, and you see that in 19, because in chapter 19, the gloves are now officially off. And if you're following along in chapter 19, there are 3 sections in chapter 19. The first section is verses 1 through 10. In verses 1 through 10, Saul tells his court, his officers, his family, tells Jonathan, I want David dead. But Jonathan defies his father the king and protects David. What's more, Jonathan even confronts his father the king and says, why will you sin? He says, sin. He accuses his father the king of sin. Why will you sin against the innocent blood by killing David without cause? He's only done you good. And in the text, Saul relents for a while, for not too long, because in the text, David's threat in Saul's eyes, it surfaces all over again very quickly, because war flares up with Philistines again. And again, David, the text says, strikes them with a mighty blow, and they flee before him. So for Saul, all those anxieties and all those insecurities and all that paranoia, it just kind of comes flooding back into Saul's crazy head again. And that leads us to the second section in chapter 19, verses 11 to 17. Saul now sends messengers, soldiers, a hit squad, to kill David. And he sends them to his own daughter's home. He doesn't care. But Michal, his daughter, David's new wife, protects David. And really, chapter 19, this session, it's straight from a thriller. Michal warns David. He escapes out of the window, and then she makes a decoy in the bed to protect him. Saul is ruthless. He's brutal. The soldiers come for David. Michal says he's sick in bed. I don't know why that would have made a difference, but nonetheless, in the text it does. He's sick in bed. They go back and tell Saul, and Saul is so intent to murder David that he says, bring him here in his bed. I'll kill him in his bed. Michael Corleone and Tony Soprano have nothing on Saul. And that leads us to the third section in chapter 19. And it goes from verse 18 to the end of the chapter. After he escapes, David now finds shelter among the prophets at Naioth and Ramah with old judge and warrior prophet Samuel. Saul finds this out. Go get him. So Saul sends a group to go get David. And it's really kind of fascinating narrative. When the group that Saul sends gets there, the prophets, and it's unclear, but the prophets are doing something. They're lost in some kind of spiritual rapture in their prophesying that's at work among them. And the text says Samuel's there, and he's standing as head over them to kind of say he's kind of the spiritual leader or force with them. And the group that Saul sends gets too close, and the rapture or whatever it was that was a work, it takes hold of the prophets, of the soldiers there. So Saul sends a second group. And the same thing happened. They get too close to the prophets, and the same thing takes hold of the soldiers. So now they're all doing it. Third group, same thing. And I'm thinking Samuel, at a certain level, he has to be loving this. I don't want to be flippant about it, but it's like he's there. He's already said his piece, made his statement to Saul, and it's like there's this kind of spiritual force field or spiritual boundary of protection that the Lord has now set up around Samuel and the prophets, and then by extension around David himself. So after 3 failed attempts in the text, Saul goes himself. Now, just think about this. Everyone knows that Saul the king wants David dead. His soldiers know it. His court knows it. Those 3 groups who were sent and all the people connected with them, their family, they all know it. And this kind of thing gets around in the chatter. Failed military missions 3 times, 4 times if you count Michal. Failed. It gets around because now every time David escapes, the javelin from Saul, every time he escapes from the Saul, every time this happens, David only looks stronger and Saul only looks weaker. So now Saul decides to go himself. All right. And that's why, to me, at the very end of chapter 19, it's just kind of pathetically funny to me. This is what you read at the very end of the chapter. And he, Saul, and he went there to Naioth and Ramah, and the Spirit of God came upon him also, and he went and he prophesied until he came to Naioth and Ramah, and he too stripped off his clothes, and he too prophesied before Samuel and lay naked all that day and all that night. Thus it is said, is Saul also among the prophets? Can you imagine a greater humiliation for proud Saul? The king, naked, publicly naked, in a kind of a spiritual trance or frenzy or state. He's spouting things he doesn't even know he's saying, giving honor to a God that he has abandoned. I mean, you talk about one proud man being overmatched by the power of God. This is a humiliation for King Saul. Because remember, this series of events we've been recounting, it started at the top with proud King Saul taking a victory lap among the people. And it finishes with Saul groveling and mumbling naked in the dirt. So, how do you make application out of that? First, you make application when you look at David's actions. You apply David's actions to your own life. Because look, he doesn't complain. He doesn't trash talk Saul. He's always respectful of Saul, and he acts very wisely. He does. Now, I don't know about you, but I would rather face a Goliath than a Saul any day. Why? Because at least you know that Goliath is an enemy. And you know that it is noble. It is okay for you to go out and fight him. But Saul is a part of your culture. He's one of your people. He's a part of your society. He's a part of your group. He's a part of your church. He's a part of your family. He actually has a place of legitimate leadership in the power structure. He is an anointed king. Much more difficult to confront those kind of people. And I think of hostile work environments. I think of bosses who take advantage of you. I think of unscrupulous managers who play dirty, or clients or customers who entreat you in certain ways and make your life difficult. Or I think of hostile family environments of parents and step-parents and aunts and uncles and in-laws who really are just toxic in your life and the life of your family, and yet you're still connected to them. You have to deal with them. You just can't kill them. Really, you can't. So David here he's a model in terms of dealing with these environments and these difficult people. He's a model here of wisdom and discretion, and you can learn from him. He chooses his words carefully. He acts carefully. He's not impulsive. He's not reactive. He is wise and measured. In fact, just notice how often in this entire narrative that he simply avoids Saul. Just avoids him. Goes and seeks the righteous counsel of an older person, a wiser person in Samuel. And he tries to stay out of Saul's way. Now, Jesus tells us never to repay evil with evil, but to repay evil with kindness. Did you know, most of us don't really, that the greatest weapon you have when you deal with those difficult people, the greatest weapon that you have is that you never have to respond to them in kind. No, you don't. Someone screams at you and belittles you and provokes you and attacks you. You really don't have to cold cock them in return. And if you think for a minute that this means just kind of being a doormat and rolling over and playing dead in front of these difficult people, think again. Look at David's behavior. David actually exploits Saul's treatment of him. Saul wants David out of the way. He makes his life miserable, so David goes ahead and gets out of the way. And as he does a bang-up job, he does 1,000% job while he's out of the way, and no one is ever able to look at David out there and say, well, you know, he's just out there off sulking, he's nursing a grudge, he's licking his wounds. That never happens. Along the path, David meets all of his obligations. He fulfills all of his duties. He never says a bad word about Saul. And that's amazing. Because people can mess you up. And it will seem for a short, might even seem like a long while, that they're getting away from it and you're left holding the bag. And that's when you have to trust that God actually does know what He's doing and that God does see the wickedness of others. And speaking of wickedness, remember that you too, you have your own sins and your own flaws. That in terms of your own righteous standing before God, you are no more righteous in the presence of God than the one who has sinned against you that you are feeling so victimized by. There's an old saying that I taught my children: you take care of behavior and let God take care of appearance. David's actions as he deals with this are our first application. Learn from them and use them in your life. Now, the second application actually comes in the form of a warning. And that's what's behind me. Guilt does not rest. It can only be cleansed, or it will never go away. It doesn't rest. Paul Brand was a missionary child raised in the hills of India back in the early, middle 1900s. And as that missionary child, he was exposed as a child to leper colonies. Now, he went on to train and become a great doctor, go back to India, and he did some of the great pioneering work in the treatment regimes of lepers and leprosy. Because he found that it was the sheath around the nerves that became infected so much and inflamed that it closed up and it strangled, and that's what killed the nerves. So he developed this regimen of treatment to teach infected people how to constantly monitor their extremities, their fingers and their toes, because you see, when the nerves are killed there, infected people can't feel when the stove is all that hot, or when they get a simple cut or nick in their toe or their finger, that a simple cut that you and I would recognize, they can't understand that it'll get infected until it's too late before it has to be amputated. Because you see, when people can't feel pain, bad things happen to them. And he tells the story of showing up in a remote mountain village, and he had got to teach them about hygiene and sanitation and water treatment. And he goes to the village well, which is his normal practice, so he sees all of the people coming out of their huts and out of their fields to come to see him because they know him. And then he sees off in a distance, there's this boy, and he's running with a limp. And he gets closer, that limp is explained, and it's very alarming to Dr. Brand, because what this boy is doing is he's actually running on a badly damaged foot. Bone and blood and gravel and dirt in that environment with all the animals, and it's just, he's running on that, exposed, but the boy is feeling no pain because he's a leper. He was running on that open wound, and that's where Dr. Brand got the name for his book, The Gift of Pain. It's not that no one seeks out pain, and no one should seek out pain, and there's nothing worthy in and of itself about pain. But pain is a gift, and as much as, because without it, we can't tell something's wrong. The little boy's leg had to be taken above the knee, but at least it saved his life. When we feel guilty about something, our first reaction ought to be, well, what's really wrong here? Is there something I need to change? Is there a relationship I need to mend? Is there an apology I need to make? Are there responsibilities I need to re-examine and fulfill? I mean, I know that the drill today is that today guilt is a really bad word. We're never supposed to feel guilty about anything in our modern culture. And to be sure, some of us can be paralyzed by an inappropriate guilt, by feeling guilty about matters over which we had no responsibility or no control, or a skewed perception, and we can become paralyzed by all kinds of guilt because other people are trying to lay guilt on our shoulders. Absolutely, I get that. I know that happens. But I'm not talking about those extremes. I'm talking about our normal daily lives. And in our normal daily lives, if that kind of nervous signal of our own guilt starts to register in our hearts, then don't be like Saul, who did everything but turn around and face the problem. There's only one answer for guilt, and that's forgiveness. You will not find an answer for your guilt at the bottom of yet another bottle. substance. You will not find an answer for your guilt by going deeper into debt to buy your way out through gifts or doodads or trinkets or whatever the next new is. You will not find an answer for your guilt by burying yourselves under a mountain of activities so that you're so busy that your mind never even has a free nanosecond to think about why you feel guilty and what you need to do about it. Because guilt never rests. You can see that in Saul's life. It pursues him all his life. Guilt never rests, but it can be cleansed. It can be taken away. And you'll see that as we go through David's life. Create in me a clean heart. Renew me. Cleanse me. And I shall be whiter than snow. The only answer is for you to turn around and face it. And be cleansed. The prodigal son said, against heaven and you. Whenever you got that, you have the idea when you have something you're feeling guilty about that's legitimate, first you violated God's purposes in your life, and then you probably hurt somebody else. It's going to take both. Cleansing by the blood of Christ, cleansing by the life of Christ. It's the only answer. It's the only answer. Let's pray. Oh God, let us learn from both David and Saul. Let us be wise. Make us wise. And through your Spirit, cause us to turn around and face what's pursuing us. Bless us this day. We receive this day in your word as a blessing from your hand. In Jesus' name, amen. Would you stand, please?